Hello and welcome to the Afri Dominion Show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so much for joining our broadcast today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're joining us via social media like Facebook and YouTube, welcome. We are so glad that you have some time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And we want you to have that opportunity to join us live, either via Zoom or your active chat, as we are going to be having a live conversation with you. Or we so very much want to also ask that you can please share our program, especially if you find it very helpful and as an added value to you. Be sure to subscribe and follow depending on which platform that you are acting or that you are accessing our content from. And we also want to let you know that in this conversation here at Afri Dominion, we are speaking frankly with you. We're speaking boldly with you. And we also want to say that we are speaking with absolutely no apologies to any one of you. And you may ask, or you may be wondering, why is it that we're saying that? We are saying that because everything we're doing today, or whatever we are discussing with you right now, we discussing it because it is something that we care very deeply, very, very deeply to our hearts. And with that in mind, we will be sharing conversation with you, discussing with you in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we would love each and every one of you to measure both the integrity and the validity of the content that we are going to be sharing with you today. And with that in mind, I also want to give a huge welcome to all of you, and also ask that you also do send us some feedbacks. We want to see, we want to know, we want to hear from you, get a chance to know your thoughts on the program, your feelings or your comments, even share some information with you. Not to mention, if you found this conversation or the content that we are sharing with you, if you find it very helpful, or if you see a room where you can actually be an added value, by all means, please reach out to us. Our website that you can come through or reach us through is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. We can also give you our email and telephone information or telephone contacts. Our email is info@afridominion.com. info@afridominion.com. Those of you who are joining us right now, we would very much love that you go to the website, join our group, right, where you can actually find the rest of our colleagues, those that we share same goals, same values, the like minds, so you can be a part of that as well. So be sure to join our Telegram group. It's right on the website. If you go there, you should be able to get through. We have our number there. Those of you joining us or who want to have a saying via any of the instant messages, use our number to reach out to us. We would very much love to have a one-on-one conversation as it happens. We are live, and we would love for you to come and join us. Those of you joining us live from television or listening to us via a radio station, if you want to join a live conversation, you would have to get on any one of those platforms that we are mentioning so you can be a part of it. And with that said, I also want to give you guys a small brief conversation of what Afri Dominion is. This is a brand new show that we just started this January, and we want all of you to know what it is and why we're doing it. There is a show, and then there is activities, or there is a movement, or there is the concept behind it. So what is Afri Dominion? Afri Dominion, or what you can say the dominion of us as African sons and daughters, it's an idea. Afri Dominion is an idea that inspires, advocates, and encourages a complete and total take back of Africa Dominion by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, one country at a time, all in the interest of African people primarily, and then the rest of the world afterwards. We truly mean what we say. This is an opportunity as a show to inspire, to advocate, and to encourage all of you sons and daughters, African descendants, to take charge of your country, to take charge of the continent, all in the interest of you people first and foremost. And then the rest of the world comes secondly, or they come last. We are speaking frankly, as I had told you, and that's what we are about. And this show is dedicated to encouraging, to advocating, to inspiring all of you who want to be an added value to your families, to your communities, to your countries, and to the continent of Africa. This does not mean in any way, shape, and form that we are discriminating. If you've got a situation going on in your own families, you take care of you first before you go take care of somebody else. And that's the spirit by which we are also saying, hey, you sons and daughters, African descendants, take charge of your own country. Take back your own country. Take back the continent. Look after the very best interests of your own families, of your own communities, of your villages, of your nations, and the continent. We are fully aware that Africa is not alone on the universe. Africa is not alone on planet Earth. There are other continents. We have to interact with each other. But if we have not yet been able to take charge of our own affairs, if the rest of the continent are coming to Africa and take charge of Africa, Africa ways of life, the people, the governments, everything about you as a people, it's being guided, it's being governed, it's being controlled by someone else. That is not right. We want to be able to take that back to us first, sons, daughters, and African descendants primarily. So I want you all to fully understand why we have this show, what we believe, and the concept of the ideas behind us showing up like this. And we also want to say thanks to the networks giving us support, broadcasting this show, distributing this show, because we know that topics like this are not very popular. Especially, they're not very popular to the stakeholders who can be listening to us and be like, oh, these children, they think they're slick. They think they can take back. They think they can actually be able to take charge of their own affairs. While we've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, who are they to think that they can actually have the audacity to publicly say, hey, we want to take back charge of our own countries, charge of our own communities, charge of our own villages? But frankly speaking, that's what we are saying. And we don't beat around the bushes about it. And so with that in mind, today we have a theme. Actually, before I get into it, I also want to let you know that given the broader scope of what we discuss, we've decided to actually have different themes so that we can actually get an opportunity to better manage the conversations, to better manage activities, to better manage action plans that come from all over Africa, from different organizations, different families, different stakeholders. We want to be able to find a vehicle that can better manage this. So, and with that in mind, I also want to let you know how this is all broken down. So we have 5 themes since the show airs from Mondays all the way through Fridays. On Monday, we have one theme, Tuesday, another, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. On Mondays, we talk about eradication of refugees and stateless person conditions in Africa. So we focus on African refugees and African stateless persons. Those in those predicament, we call out for them. We do the best to speak on their behalf. We encourage them to take a stand and get out of that situation. On Tuesdays, we talk about the Constitution, law and policy review and implementation. We know that everything is usually tied into some sort of agreement. The first supreme agreement that we all have on planet Earth, it's called the Constitution. Every country has its own constitution, then they have laws, then they have policies. So we want to scrutinize the type of constitutions that we have, the policies we have in place, the laws that we have in place, so that we can actually see whether these constitutions, these laws, these policies have the very best interest of African people and African countries, you as a people and as a family. And if they do not have the best interest of you, your family, your village, your community, your country, we want to get rid of them. But if you do not take a peek at it, if you do not scrutinize and see what's actually there, you will never get to know about it. And that's what we talk about. That's the action plans, or that's what we attempt to advocate for on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we talk about our testimonies. We tell our own testimonies, our own ways, with no apologies from nobody or to nobody. Why we believe that? Our testimonies, our histories, it is all ours. We must be able to tell it the way we know it. Gone are the days where someone else is coming over and actually speaking about your own history on your behalf, however, in their own interest. Not your own interest, but in someone else's interest. So we say no. We want to be able to tell our own testimonies, our own stories, write our own history, our own way, without someone else coming in and saying, no, this is not how we want you to say it. We rather want you to say it this way. We don't want that. We don't need that. So it's about time that we actually tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It is all ours. That's what makes us who we are today. And so we want us to be able to embrace that as a people. On Thursdays, we talk about the spirit of dominion. What is the spirit of dominion? Those of you who do not know anything about it, we want you to tune in. This is where we talk about rulership, governorship, taking control, taking mastery of your own affairs, of your own leadership, without having to have any excuses, without pushing the bucket to someone else, taking charge of it. Even if you're not that perfect, you got to start from somewhere. So on Thursdays, we get into that in a much more detailed way. On Fridays, we talk about current events throughout Africa and the impact these events are having on African people and African nations. And you get to have an opportunity to have a saying in it as well. And with that in mind, since today is Thursdays, you already know what the theme is. We're talking about the spirit of dominion. And the topic today we want to talk about, it's who is in charge and what is the role of military in governing Africa and your country. So we know that Africa is being governed by somebody else, especially for the interest of outsiders. And when I say outsiders, I'm referring to every single individual, organization, government entities, or any stakeholders who is not of African roots, or who doesn't have African roots, who is not from Africa, who wasn't born in Africa, who's in Africa but looking after the interest of someone else who doesn't come originally from Africa. That's what we're saying, outsiders. So it's very imperative that it gets to be clear. So who's in charge of Africa? And then broadly speaking, once we focus that, who's in charge of your own country? Are you really in charge of your own country as a people? If you're not, who is actually in charge of your own country? And you as a people, we the people, remember, what are you going to do about that? These questions perplex most of us every single day. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking about it openly like this. If you do not know something about you as a people, you as families, as communities, how will you actually even get to know when it's time to take action towards that situation, wherever that is? So we want to be able to know what's going on, who's really in charge. The spirit of dominion entails that you get to be fully responsible of your own life, fully responsible of your own affairs, fully responsible of how you're managing your personal resources, your family resources, your community resources, your village resources, your country resources, even the continent. That doesn't come by just dropping from the sky and falling on your laps. You've got to be able to have a structure, a way of, a ways to go about that. And if you're not governing yourself, if you do not have some sort of self-government, if you don't have self-discipline, and then extend that to your family, to your communities, to your villages, to your nation, how will you possibly govern you? Look after the very best interest of you as a people. So we want to be able to dive into that. And if I get right on point right now, Africa hasn't been able to govern itself since 1885. Fact speaking. It is true that we have governments in Africa. It is also true that we have constitutions, or the supreme agreement between the people and these government institutions. It is true that we set up our own laws and we make an attempt to follow them. It is true that we also have our own policies. However, who's actually coming up with this constitution? Who is creating these constitutions on your behalf as a people? Go over the majority of African constitutions. They have not been written by African people. They have been written from the outside of Africa. Sometimes with the collaborations of African people who are looking after their own individual interest instead of the people's interest. Then they get to be brought in your countries, and then they are enacted in some sort of controlled ways. Again, this is not conspiracy. They are facts. And we are more than glad to debate that. All of you, especially. So you young people, you young leaders of tomorrow, do you actually bother to wonder, to scrutinize how is our government led today? How did we get here today? Since 1885, most of these African countries has been visited. They have been visited by outsiders. 1895, specifically when the Berlin Conference took place, Africa was sliced into small pieces without a single African having a saying in it. There were policies that were enacted during that meeting. There were agreements of which were established between those stakeholders. And most of those agreements are still in place today, since 1895 up to today. But remember, say that the Africa was visited prior to 1895. So you have infiltrations, you have many stakeholders from outside of Africa who came into Africa, and they were looking for various interests on behalf of their countries. In most of the cases, they were kingdoms. So they were they came over and were seeking how to expand the kingdoms from whichever places they were coming from. And Africa was just like like a juicy meat ready to grab, regardless whether the local people had their own form of governments. That didn't change. When Africa was sliced, various countries took their own small pieces. By force, I should add. By force. Slavery took over, as it has been. Political slavery, economical slavery, social slavery. Since 1895 up to today. Now, if we frankly speak and boldly speak with no apologies, if African people aren't on the table of this discussion on how they can have a better quality of life, how can you dare say that there is democracy in Africa, that there is freedom to actually live a quality life those inalienable rights that we speak of, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, would you dare to say that Africa as a continent has it? African country have it? I submit to you that I do not think that we actually do have those ideals that we see in various countries, various democratic countries, I should say it, because that's how it's sold as a package. Now, if that's the case, and today you Africans don't have a saying in it, you African descendants who were born in these countries have no single clue what's happening. You are sent to Africa because you have some sort of connection. But even that connection that you have never taken the time to better understand it. How can you, in good faith, claim that you're looking after the interest of Africa and African people? Now, let's also clear the room and clear the whole sky and say, we know that every single country looks after its own interests. It's no secret. But today, as African people, we are so interconnected, so deeply interconnected, that just looking after the interests of one country, oftentimes it leaves its people. Because when a country was sliced, some people became foreigner to their own homeland. For instance, I was born in Rwanda. When Rwanda was sliced, from the size that it used to be before Africa was sliced up to the size Rwanda is today, so much of it was sliced off. And the part that were sliced off had population that there were people. So today you can find Rwandan-speaking people in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Democratic Republic of the Congo, and certainly Burundi. Rwanda and Burundi used to be one nation. The same way South Sudan and Northern Sudan or Sudan used to be one nation. But because of the interest of primarily the outsiders, they found it necessary to, slice the land. And anytime you're slicing the land, there are those who are actually taken advantage of. If you are supposed to be one people, and then all of a sudden you find yourself belonging to another people, to another culture, to another way of life, you are forced to actually conform. When you conform to a new culture and new ways of life, you have to give up your own ways. You have to give up your own, your own language, your own beliefs. Sometimes you may have to find, you may have to give it up. So how do you reconcile and become one people when by design you are not supposed to be one people? When you look back in history, when Africa was a huge empire, 3 or 4 empires on the entire continent. And from the empire to small kingdoms and now to countries who have no dominion over themselves, over their own affairs. They absolutely have governments, but governments that are being set up from outside of Africa. But the stakeholders who do not look after the prime interest of Africans people. I submit to you, do your own research. Go country after country after country after country after country in Africa. Scrutinize the leadership. And see who's actually in charge. Oftentimes, you will find that the leaders that we have in place have some sort of immediate connection with outsiders. From training to ways of life to secret agreements and hence agreement. Look at the constitutions that they have. Look at the language that they have. If you have spent 30, 40, 50 years outside of Africa, and you have completely gotten disconnected from your people, your families, the affairs of your own country, how can you then desire to come in and lead the same people that you have never had any interest to connect with? Definitely leadership, it's of a huge desire to most people. It's great and everything, but based on what is influencing you the most. Those are the lenses by which you are going to govern the people. And so it's tragic today that African leaders, most of the African leaders, are being trained from the outside of Africa and spend very little time learning about the ways of life of African people, their own villages, their own family. And oftentimes there is stigma that these are villages of the poor, the so fallen behind life, the peasants. They don't want to associate yourselves with those families, with those people. You want to be able to be a city boy or silly girl. You want to be able to represent, the latest of the style, the latest of this and the latest of that. How can you speak on behalf of the people you cannot relate to? And that's why we say today, if you are a son, a daughter, an African descendant, regardless of where you are today, what country you live in, what nation you find yourself in, be it inside of Africa or outside of Africa, you have to make it a point to learn of your own self. Learn your own family, learn your community. Learn your roots. From there, get to know what are the issues in your family, in your communities that are most pressing. Can you add any value to those, to that situation? Can you be a part of the solution to those situations? If you have no single clue of what's happening, and you happen to be in any one of these countries, and then you take part in the leadership in these governments here, and then they send you as an envoy on behalf of one country to your homeland, do you really and honestly think you are going to be looking after the interests of your homeland or the interests of your host country? Let's look at most of these coups d'etat. Who are behind this coup d'etat? You may see a person from whichever country, but when you see the forces behind that individual is the outside world. How is it that is something that becomes legal to you, the local people? How can you honor such a change in regimes? How can you honor such leadership and then somehow accept that that particular leadership is looking after your very best interest? Again, frankly speaking, it's unconscionable. Picture someone from Rwanda, since everybody knows Rwanda. Someone coming straight from the village, spend his or her entire life in Rwanda. And then notice, all of a sudden, get some papers, come to the United States, and someone put him on a ballot, on a campaign ballot to be a governor. Nobody knows nothing about you. He or she has never spent any time to learn anything about the ways of life in the United States. would you actually believe that that individual will be in a position to look after the very best interest of the citizens of that whatever nation, of that whatever states that he or she will be campaigning for? What happens if now behind that individual is Rwanda pushing it, hey, go take care of him? Would you really think that that individual will be looking after the interests of the United States or the interest of Rwanda? Such is the leadership that we have today in Africa. Sadly speaking. And it's so sad that you have geniuses, you have people who've graduated with all kinds of amazing degrees, saying, yes, we finally got it. But these people are being pushed by a different kind of force behind them that oftentimes they don't even care to understand. They're more than happy to get a push. They sign whatever it is you give them, and they say, yes, just get me to that seat. I want to be able to take charge as well. I want to help my people. I love my people. But they've never made any investment in their own people. Who are you killing? And so we are actually submitting to you, the young people in Africa, young people in respective countries, young Rwandans. It's imperative that you learn your ways of life. It's imperative that no one imposes upon you their own ways of life, and then in turn, you go and you impose it on your own people. If we are to take a full control of our own leadership, a full control of the Africa Dominion, your country's dominion, you must be able to fully understand your ways of lives. You must be able to fully understand the issues at hand. You must be able to fully commit and delegate to looking after your own interests first before the outsiders. And without any shame. There's no shame in doing that. There's no shame in saying that. After all, we all want the same thing, be it in Africa, be it in the United States, be it in Europe, be it in any continent. We want to have the ideals of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, without someone stepping on your neck, or without someone saying, no, this is actually reserved to just us here. You used to be kind of monkeyish, things like that kind of stereotype. You have to be able to stand for what you believe in. You have to be able to fight for it. You have the legal rights to your land, to your dominion, to your resources, not someone else on the outside. You have the legal obligation to actually take care of your own people and also get a chance to take care of the rest of the world, especially that Africa is the mother of everybody else. But if you're oppressing your own people and you're making sure the poverty and the more dire ways of life are imposed upon them, whose interests are you looking out for? And I submit to you that it is not going to be your own people. Let's look at the military. Africa, it's like the sexiest place that every single so-called developed country is going after militarily. Now, why in the world would the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, China, Russia, Australians, everybody who's who, like the who's who on the list, why is it that they go into Africa? Why is it that the military is so interested in just having a piece of Africa? Why so adamant about it? Why all kinds of agreement with nations? When Africans themselves haven't been able to have those kind of cooperations between countries and neighbors genuinely. Young people, when we say we must be able to take back charge of our own lives, every aspect of your life you are responsible for. The lack of doing it gives the opportunity anybody else who can do it to come and take over. If the United States is in charge of your country militarily, do you think that they're going to look after your very best interest primarily? And again, I'm not hating. You sign something, you have to honor it. But if you're signing it on behalf of the people, but the people have no idea what it is, it's called treason. Again, let's flip the coin. Would any of your country come here to Pentagon? The Pentagon, for those of you who don't know what it is the Department of Defense for the United States. Would you draft an agreement, have the audacity come to the Pentagon, tell them, hey, this is what we got for you. We want you to sign here, kumbaya. Real talk, and frankly speaking again. If any of your country would never dare to do that, and if the American citizens would not actually accept that, why is it that you're accepting it coming from the United States, coming from the United Kingdoms, coming from Europe, European countries, France, Germany, coming from Russia, from China, from any of the developed nations, as they call themselves? You're not even taking the responsibility to read these agreements to see, hey, is this thing in the best interest of our own people? And that's what we are saying, and I did say it a long time ago. If you have an agreement with a child and you're actually openly taking an advantage over a child, there is a name for it in these countries. There are so many organizations that actually advocate on behalf of children. They are so quick to pin you down and make sure that that doesn't happen. And I submit to you, Africa and African people, they are like children when it comes to leadership. They are either being treated as children and they are taken advantage of as children. And not one single world government or any of these world organizations can say, hey, we actually think this is unfair. This is actually taking advantage of these countries. None of them can dare to say that. Case in point, because I really want you to get to see one of the things I'm referring to. There is something that's called there's something that's called the Status of Force Agreement, SOFA. These are agreements that have been drafted by the United States with many African nations. And again, I took an example of Rwanda because that's one of the countries that I follow very closely. I tend to want to know what's happening with it and being in a position to say, hey, what's up with that? So I want you all, if you are especially on social media, we've taken the liberty to look under the description, and I'm trying to actually pull it up so you guys can get a chance to see it. If you look under the description of the description of our conversation today, you'll notice that there is a link that I left there, that I put there. And this link, it's talking about the agreement between the United States of America and Rwanda. If the technicians can actually project that on the screen so we can be able to actually share that momentarily. I would appreciate it. And I want you guys to just have a chance to see what I'm talking about here. If you can just project that there so they can get a chance to see it, please. I would appreciate it. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so try to blow it up so they can actually see it. Actually, give me the control. Give me the control over it, so I can actually show you guys. All right, so I think I'm looking at the same thing you're looking right now on my screen. So this is a recent agreement that the United States signed with Rwanda last year, May 28th. So they signed an agreement with Rwanda. And this agreement, I believe it may be a binding agreement. We will explore that momentarily. However, one of the reasons I'm actually, I want you to take a look at that is because when I read this agreement, I was going crazy. You may ask what happened, and I will actually show you in a second. Let me make sure that I'm actually able to look at it properly so that let me zoom in on my own here. Okay. One second. Because sometimes there are things that you guys get to see and you wonder who cook some of these conversations or some of these agreements, and it's just crazy. It is crazy, and it is sad that it's actually happening. And I want you young people to have an opportunity to actually understand the implication of some of these, some of these things taking place. You do not get to say anything about it. All right, let me come there. Let me come there so we can look at it together. So this agreement with the United States and Rwanda, it's so beautifully written. I'm not going to get into the whole thing fully because we just don't have the time for it, but I just want you to know and to see that sometimes the people who are looking after your interest are not really looking after your interest. And again, I'm not hating. The purpose of me demonstrating or showing you this document as an example is to show you how we have people selling out our countries, selling out the nations. And they call themselves that they're looking after the interests of the people. And I want you to get an opportunity to see the current status force agreement between the United States and Rwanda, and you will get a chance to see some of the things that I'm referring to. As you can see, the agreement between the United States, the government of the United States of America, and the government of the Republic of Rwanda regarding the status of United States forces in the Republic of Rwanda. Quickly, the United States of America and the government of the Republic of Rwanda, hereinafter collectively referred to as parties, blah, blah, blah. This is that lingo, the lawyer lingo, that language of lawyers, desiring to promote and strengthen closer bilateral defense and security cooperation. Listen carefully, young people. The purpose is to promote and strengthen closer bilateral defense and security cooperation. Have agreed as follows. And quickly. This agreement shall apply with regard to the U.S. personnel and U.S. contractors who may be temporarily present in the territory of Republic of Rwanda in connection with ship visits, training exercises, humanitarian activities, and other activities such as mutually agreed. The U.S. personnel means members of the U.S. Armed Forces and civilian employees of the U.S. Department of Defense. U.S. contractors means non-Rwandan companies and firms and their employees who are not nationals of Rwanda under contract of the U.S. Department of Defense. Privileges and exemptions and immunities. Guys, listen carefully to these things that I'm referring to. U.S. personnel shall be accorded the privileges, exemptions, and immunities equivalent to those accorded the administrative and technical staff of diplomatic mission under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of April 18th, 1961. Young people, I hope you guys are listening and you are watching this. Rwanda recognizes the particular importance of disciplinary control by U.S. Armed Forces authorities over U.S. personnel, and therefore authorizes the United States to exercise criminal jurisdiction over U.S. personnel while in the territory of Republic of Rwanda. Are you listening or are you watching? First and foremost, Rwanda is a sovereign country, but because of the bilateral cooperation, security cooperation, Rwanda freely has given the United States the full authority over U.S. personnel. And anytime there's any criminal issues, any criminal charges, anything criminal that takes place on Rwandan territory by U.S. personnel, Rwanda as a country has zero legal authority to go after any of the U.S. personnel. I want you to understand, people. And first and foremost, I want you to flip sides. Right here where you see Rwanda put the United States. Would you, as a United States citizen, United States recognizes the particular importance of disciplinary control by Rwandan Armed Forces authorities over Rwandan personnel, and therefore authorizes Rwanda to exercise criminal jurisdiction over Rwandan personnel while in the territory of the United States of America. Would you see the United States allowing Rwanda to have absolutely 100% control of Rwandan forces, do whatever it is they please in the United States? They can kill, they can do whatever. At the end of the day, if any of them have any criminal charges or commit crime on the United States territory, Rwanda can just be like, okay, you know what? We see Johnny here just committed crime in the United States. Let's take him out of the United States. We're bringing him back in Rwanda, and we are going to take care of the jurisdiction of the crimes of which has taken place. Suppose a Rwandan soldier comes in and kills a United States citizen. That family in the United States will never be able to get justice because they have to go to Rwanda first and foremost. And the United States government is not going to give you a ticket that takes you to Rwanda. You're going to find your own lawyer in Rwanda. You are going to have to struggle to know the ways about the legal standing and the legal authorities by which those criminal charges are going to be taken care of. Why is it okay for Rwanda citizens to read such a paragraph, especially those lawyers, especially those who actually signed this document, those who call themselves smart people, looking after the interests of the Rwandan as a people? Why in the world would you sign that when you know if everything is all flipped, the other countries that you're signing an agreement with isn't going to go for it? Again, I ask you, if we simply just flip the coins, where you see Rwanda and you put the United States, would this agreement pass in the Congress? And I submit to you that it will be a hell no. A hell to the no. However, Rwandan people, I was going to say as stupid as they are, but as careless as they are, not looking after the very best interests of the people, have freely allowed the United States to take jurisdiction over its entire armed forces on Rwandan territory. They can come and kill and do whatever it is they can do there and go home without even being handcuffed, without even staying in any Rwandan cell. And imagine a Rwandan citizen who's already poor, who doesn't have a passport, who do not have enough money to even go to Uganda, to even go to Kenya, to fly on another country outside of Rwanda, who don't have the capacity. Is it right that that person is actually forced to come to the United States to seek out justice in a nation that they have zero understanding over? How will that justice be given to that family? Young people, I want you to go think over that. Let's continue. U.S. personnel may enter and exit the territory of Republic of Rwanda with U.S. identification and with collective movement or individual travel orders. Again, can a Rwandan personnel enter and exit the United States with just a Rwandan national ID? And just some travel documents? Have you ever seen something like this happen? I submit to you that it's a hell no. This would not happen. Especially today. You need a passport to come to the United States. However, a U.S. personnel under this agreement doesn't have to have a passport. If today I'm working for DOD, the Department of Defense in the United States, and they give me a mission to come to Rwanda, I need not have a passport. I can just use my regular ID here in the United States and I go straight to Rwanda. And Rwanda would not mind my business. They would not dare ask me, what the hell are you here for? What are you doing in our country? They would not dare ask that. Suppose I go and then I commit a crime there. Guess what? I go straight to the embassy of the United States. They bring me back home again here. Whatever crimes, I get to answer it here. Never mind whether it's just or unjust, it gets to be done in the interest of the United States. That's the bottom line that I want you to see. U.S. personnel may have freedom of movement and access to and use of mutually agreed transportation, storage, training, and other facilities required in connection with activities under this agreement. Again, remove the U.S. personnel and put in Rwandan personnel coming to the United States, freely moving anywhere they so choose without any oversight. Would you see that happening here in the United States? Again, it's a hell no. Frankly speaking, Rwanda shall accept as valid all professional licenses issued by the United States, its political subdivisions, or states thereof to U.S. personnel for provisions of services to authorized personnel. In other words, if you're a lawyer, as long as you're under this agreement, your credentials in the United States, they work just fine in Rwanda. If you're an engineer in construction, your credentials here in the United States are just fine as long as you are on Rwandan territory and under this agreement. Now, would you flip the coin? Would your Rwandan credential work in the United States under this agreement? The answer is hell no. Again, Rwanda shall accept as valid Rwanda shall accept as valid without a driving test or fee. Driving licenses or permit issued by the appropriate U.S. authorities to U.S. personnel for operation of vehicles. Again, my peoples, when I look at this literally looks like it's some sort of a joke. So, as a U.S. citizen, I can just go to Rwanda and use my license, my driver's license, which I was issued by the Department of Motor Vehicles in the United States. And Rwanda would honor that right away. I don't have to pay any fees. They don't have to verify as long as it's issued by the U.S. government, motor vehicle registration authorities. I'm good to go. Now I'm asking, can you bring your Rwandan driving license to the United States and do the same thing? This is the question that I have for you, young people. And I want to just use a word that is not so nice to the people who signed this agreement, especially on behalf of Rwandans. This is the leadership that I'm talking about, young people. Not looking after the interests of your own countries. Here, the United States is fully and as obligated, looking after its own interest. 100% the United States is seeking after its interest. That's the mandate of a diplomat, to speak on behalf of your country. The U.S. ambassador who signed this document with Rwanda, absolutely, and I will give him 1,000%. He had executed his duties as given as an ambassador. He'd made sure that the United States had its interest looked after. Now, can we say the same thing to Rwanda? The answer is hell no. I'm telling you up front. Let's keep on going quickly. The U.S. personnel are authorized to wear uniforms while performing official duties and to carry arms while on duty if authorized to do so by their orders. Listen again. Can you just see a Rwandan soldier running around here in Washington, D.C. with his gun issued by the Rwandan Defense Forces, by the Rwandan Department of Defense, with Rwandan uniform here in the United States? Again, I submit to you that it's a hell no. You are not going to see that. If Congress sees something like this, whoever that would have signed this agreement will be court-martialed if it's a military general. If it's a politician, a diplomat, they would actually be sacked from their job. Sacking from your job is like being fired. Why? Because that is actually what you call here treason. Treason. Taxation. Let's keep on moving. The U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. personnel shall not be liable to pay any taxes or similar charges assessed within the territory of the Republic of Rwanda. Free tax. Right now, Rwandan citizens during COVID-19 have been paying tax mercilessly, while the United States, as huge as it is, as powerful as it is, they pay zero taxes on any operation they're carrying on Rwandan territory. Again, let's flip the coin. Can you see any apps being done on behalf of the Rwandan people in the United States that doesn't come on a fee-based? Again, you allow such authority, legal authority on the United States territory, you get fired, you get sacked, you get court-martialed. Again, I'm asking, what are you thinking, Rwandans? Again, I'm not hating. I'm just saying, look after the interests of the nation, the same way the United States ensures that its interest is well looked after. The United States is very bold to publicly show us, the people, that, hey, this is what we have agreed upon. Can Rwanda have the audacity to show its citizens agreements that is having on behalf of their people with various countries? And this is one of the reasons why I'm so grateful that actually I had the opportunity to have been raised in this country. You may call it that it's broken, you may give it any name of your choice. However, they allow us, the citizens here, to scrutinize everything that's taking place. To freely say, hey, I object to this. This is really not in the best interest of us as a people. There's nothing that you will want that you won't have access to if you ask for it. Even the classified information, to a certain degree, you get to know what's going on. But can Rwandan people say the same thing to the Rwandan government? And the answer is hell no again. The U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. personnel may import into, export out of, and use in the territory of the Republic of Rwanda any personal property, any equipment, any supplies, any material, any technology, any training or services in connection with activities under this agreement. Such importation, exportation, and use shall be exempt from any inspection, license, and other restrictions, customs duties, taxes, or any other charges assessed within the territory of the Republic of Rwanda. Guys, are you listening? Are you watching? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let me break it down again. Those of you who are not understanding what I'm reading here. The United States can bring an atomic bomb to Rwanda right now under this agreement. And Rwanda has no authority to verify, to inspect the content by which the United States is bringing. They can bring any chemical agents for experiment in Rwanda or on Rwandan territory, and you have no saying in it, zero saying in it. They can bring something that requires a stringent license if it was carried here in the United States, and they require no license from Rwandan authorities. Young people understand what I'm saying here. Rwanda has given absolutely 100% of do what you want, when you want, how you want it. We just not even gonna care what you're gonna do. Come at home. We good with it. We will not inspect, we will not license. We won't have any restriction to give you any restriction. Don't worry about no custom duties. Don't worry about no taxes or any other charges that may be associated with the activities that you are into. Are you crazy? Are you actually crazy? Again, I'm saying to you, have this sentence, have this paragraph in an agreement that Rwanda is actually imposing on the United States. Let the Congress get a hand on this one. If a general has signed this, you are going to be court-martialed for treason. If an ambassador of Rwanda, of United States in Rwanda signs this, you are going to be sacked and probably face some jail time. While the Rwandan government officials who have signed that, they were given a raise and a vacation for selling out the country. This is what we are saying, that it is crazy. It is unconscionable. It's almost like, no, you're just lying. I had to pull it up. By the way, this is straight from the State Department. This is not my copy. I want you to see up here. So this is not Freeman's document. This is the United States government document that's publicly available for the US citizens and everyone who's so interested, because they are not hiding anything. So you cannot blame them for breaking an amazing deal with Africa, with African countries. I'm actually happy that they openly doing that. Now, forget the moral compass behind it. That's another story of another day. Bottom line, I'm showing here, the leadership here knows how to look after its best interests. And Rwanda is quite an example that I'm giving you today. Look after your own country. Look at the Status Force Agreement that the United States has signed with your country. And I just singled out the United States. There are many more agreements. Look at China, what it's doing. In the agreement between the Chinese government, the Chinese military with African countries. And look at it, and look the interest that they're looking after. Is it you, the people, interest, or they own interest? Guys, this is not a laughing matter, and I hope none of you is laughing today. You should be upset. You should be absolutely infuriated by this. The minister of the foreign affairs minister who signed this in Rwanda should be taken to jail. This is classic treason up in the open. The defense minister who was there should be court-martialed. Frankly speaking, it's unconscionable that you sell out a country openly and without any consequences. Again, frankly and boldly speaking. Let's continue quickly and then we wrap it up. Aircraft, vessels, and vehicles operated by or at the time exclusively for the U.S. Department of Defense may enter, exit, and move freely within the territory of the Republic of Rwanda with respect for the relevant rules of air, maritime, and land safety and movement, and such vehicles, whether self-propelled or towered, shall not be subject to payment of overland transit tolls. In other words, any hardware being driven or piloted by a man, by a human being, or whether it's actually robotic, also can freely move anywhere on Rwandan territory without any transit tolls. Aircrafts and vessels owned and operated by or at the time exclusively for the U.S. Department of Defense shall not be subject to the payment of landing, parking, port fees, pilotage charges, litterage, and harbor dues at facilities owned and operated by Rwanda. Guys, should I go any further? I think you get the point why I'm showing this agreement as an example. Everything, it's all about the interests of the United States and zero, mark my words, zero interest of Rwanda or Rwandan people. Definitely there have been interests of those who signed. Don't get it wrong. They've got some interest out of it, but not the people. And here we are saying, get rid of the crickets out of the governments, the people who aren't representing the government. There is nothing wrong with this agreement. There is everything wrong with the people who signed the agreement. Because they were not, and they are not representing the people, even though they are legally standing in the seats of these government agencies. And this is where now sometimes the moral compass kicks in. Would you actually take advantage of a child publicly and everybody just mind their own business? That's why you have these agencies that advocate on behalf of children. There should be an agency that advocates on behalf of African governments. Because clear, they're not even children. They are toddlers. If you dare sign an agreement with a toddler, you make sure that the toddler's fingerprint just go ahead and hits on him. You should go to jail. Most of these people go to jail. If you take advantage of a toddler in the open, publicly, you should go to jail. But in these instances, I'm wondering who needs to go to jail? Where is the moral compass? Let me wrap it up. Because all of you, I put this agreement right underneath there so you can be able to to see what's going on with it and read it for yourself and download it. This agreement is still in force today. On the 13th day of January, year 2022. It was signed in May 28th, 2020. Almost 2 years, this agreement is in force. The ambassador of the United States signed this, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs signed this. Remember, this is a treaty between one country to another country. The Rwandan Constitution explicitly says that the President of the Republic of Rwanda should be signing this type of treaty. Why is it that the Foreign Affairs Minister signed the treaty, such a heavy treaty? Where was President Kagame when this treaty was taking place? Where is he right now? Is he even aware of this treaty? That's why most people for these past 2 years, they claim that the president of Rwanda was dead, doesn't exist, that he's been dead. Frankly speaking, that's something that's been spoken of every single day among the Rwandese community. Because this agreement, for it to make it and to be registered in the government official gazette, gazette, the Foreign Minister Affairs took it upon himself to sign on behalf of a president and didn't have the audacity to actually say that he signed on behalf of the government of Rwanda, of the Rwandan people. For the government of the Republic of Rwanda, definitely the government signed it, but not the people. The ambassador of the United States to Rwanda, Peter, he was sent by the United States government, and he looked after the interests of the United States of America. And I shall say, beautifully done. Well done, Ambassador. Biruta, who's currently the Foreign Affairs, this guy needs to go to jail. At some point, he has to go to jail. And history should actually know him very well for what he has done. The defense minister who was there. Let me see his name because I want you guys to know him too. Let me see. Let me look at it because he's there. I remember it. I should have looked. I should have gotten this earlier so that I can. The U.S. Status Force with Rwanda. The Status Force agreement. Give me a second. I will give it to you. I'll let you know who was there. I think he was on the African. Who was there? Status Force with Rwanda. Guys, and when I say this, I'm actually saying this. I'm super saddened by that. Let me show you this page too, because I think you guys, you won't say that, so that you don't say that I'm actually I'm dreaming or I'm giving you the wrong information. This is African website. The U.S. Rwanda signed status of force agreement with the United States. Look who was there. I think it's here somewhere. This of agreement, the ambassador of Rwanda. On the side of on other side Rwanda, the ambassador. See, he was the ambassador, and he is still the ambassador of Rwanda to the United States. Peter Freeman, the U.S. ambassador. Okay, signing ceremony was also witnessed by Honorable Minister of Defense Major General Albert Murasira. This is one of the Defense Minister. Ambassador Guillaume Kavaruganda, Director General in charge of Europe and the Americas and the International Organization, and Major General Ferdinand Safari, Director General in charge of Policy and Strategy at the Ministry of Defense. And of course, Biruta Vensa, who also signed the agreement. Now, how the hell did these people get to sign the agreement on behalf of the Rwandan people? And they signed such a crazy agreement like that. This is a question that you guys should be wondering, should be asking today. In whose interest did these people sign? Why are they not in jail? Why are they still representing the people of Rwanda? Do you guys know what the United States is doing in Rwanda today with African? Do you know what the United States is doing in East Africa region with African? Do you know what the United States African is doing in Africa? Again, I am not hating. I'm stating something critical that I would love for you guys to seriously understand and seriously actually take as a serious call out to you guys. Because if you do not actually take a chance, take the time and to fully understand what's happening, you too are going to be sold. African leadership must be fully controlled by the African people. The Rwandan leadership, the government leadership should be and must be taken by the Rwandan citizens and Rwandan descendants, all in the interest of Rwandan people. Primarily, and then the rest of the nations secondly. We say the same thing to the African people and the African continent and the African leadership. The entire Africa Dominion must be, I shall say, should be and must be taken, controlled fully by the African sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of African people primarily. And the rest of the world can come in secondly. That's what we're saying, and that's what we feel about all of this. And we need to make that happen, young people. There is so much more agreements. I mean, I've been busy reading all kinds of agreements. These are publicly available, though you will never see these agreements on those African governments. They hide them. However, here in the United States and some other European countries, they are obligated to make most of these agreements public, especially if it's not a classified agreement. And again, the other day I was asking you, why do you get to have classified agreement on behalf of the people? If it's classified, how can the people actually make sure that it's that it's in their best interest? I'm so perplexed by that. And it makes me wonder, what are we going to do to make sure that our countries, our regions, are actually the interest of our country and the region is actually secured by the people who have at heart their own country interest at heart, and first and foremost. How can we ensure that we make that happen, young people? And again, we are publicly pulling this out. We are not bashing all these other countries, but we are saying, shame on you. You're supposed to be the grown-ups. Yet you're taking advantage of African countries. You're taking advantage of the African people. And you make no apologies about it because you are considering these African countries, the leaders, growing up, matured enough to know how to look after the interests of their own people, or those are the assumptions that you have. Shouldn't there be some sort of mechanism to make sure that there is a moral compass behind these agreements? Shouldn't there be some sort of oversight that makes sure that every single country, its leadership, its prime purpose of that leadership is to protect, to look and actually seek out the very best interests of the people? Ladies and gentlemen, we have so much work to do. We have so much work to do. And most of you who think this is that this is something that you can easily do and you maneuver here and you maneuver there, think twice next time. Think twice. Let me read quickly what our brothers and sisters are saying in the on social media, and then we wrap it up. The weird this is that the U.S. ambassador, as well as the Minafet, are signing in representative of chiefs of the states. Well, the U.S. ambassador is actually United States on two legs. So he's legally allowed to do that on behalf of the President of the United States. He can do that because he is literally the United States on two legs. But Biruta, even though he's chief ambassador of Rwanda, he has no legal authority to sign international treaty when the president is well and alive, as we say. So President Kagame should have been the one signing this agreement, because the Constitution of Rwanda says that the president of Rwanda is the one who put a signature on the international treaty. If he isn't doing it, he either does it or sends his ambassador, or someone must be able to sign it on his behalf. The same way the Prime Minister constantly says, on behalf of the President of Rwanda, I am firing you. On behalf of the President of Rwanda, I am doing this and that and that and that. Legally speaking, that man is covering himself up. But Biruta, he should be getting a jail cell for selling out Rwanda and Rwanda interest. This is a very good example of how hard it is when someone an altered sign. But the trick is, the story is that there is double intention in Hotanyi. This country is no longer belongs to the Rwandans. No more. Gosh, who the hell signed this agreement? Biruta signed the agreement, buddy. This is why Mali is standing firmly against the imperialism of France colonized minds, my brother. This happened in most of African countries where the heads of states are sort of puppets with no vision or future for their countries. Good day, my brother Kagoma. Mo WhatsApp été piraté. Oh, okay, sorry about that, Eta. But we are together. I haven't got a chance to actually see the messages that you sent out on WhatsApp. I will check them out right after the broadcast. But ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of us talking about this openly, it is to say that our eyes are wide open today. As citizens of various countries in Africa, as citizens of these modern countries, these developed countries, we have an obligation actually as citizens to have a saying in the affairs of the nations you belong to, or your citizenship gives you the legal authority to question it, to even have an opinion on what's happening in your country. You can encourage changes if you believe within you that those changes are valid and are in the best interest of the people. You can advocate for those changes. You can inspire those others who can actually get an opportunity or a chance to do it better than you can. And today we are saying we must be able to do that for our own countries, for the continent of Africa, with no apologies to nobody. This is preposterous that the very rich nations, advanced nations, are taking advantage of African continent openly. And nobody's saying anything about it. And if you're in a position to say something about it, you are also apprehended or something terrible happens to you if you're not assassinated. And this is 2022, seriously speaking. African leadership by African people in the interest of Africa and African people, that kind of leadership never lasts, or it never used to last. So what do we have to do to ensure that if we actually inspire, advocate, and encourage that kind of leadership, we get an opportunity to protect it as we should? And we make sure that these brothers and sisters, African descendants, are protected and have an opportunity to execute the duty that they so rightfully been given on behalf of the people. This is why those of you who cannot openly speak, because you say, hey, if I speak this openly, I'll get in trouble, I'll lose this and I'll lose that, and so on. I'm saying to all of you, seriously speaking, young people, young Africans, and you African descendants who are walking sleep, wake up and smell the coffee. We cannot turn around Africa. We cannot develop Africa. We together, we cannot develop our own respective countries if we do not scrutinize and actually get rid of everything that doesn't work, that doesn't have the interests of our own people at heart. First and foremost, there's nothing wrong in ensuring that another country that you have some sort of mutual agreement, you have benefits, you work together. But even at the very best, reach that point where you two respect each other, where one is not a puppet or a slave, another one is a master. And that's what we see today. Political slavery, economical slavery, social slavery. We no longer have physical slavery, that has been taken out, and then we have mental slavery as well. How do you African descendants fight against political slavery, economical slavery, social slavery, mental slavery, and whatever kind of form of slavery you may be experiencing today? How do you fight that collectively? And how do we make sure that the leadership we have in Africa, the leadership we have in your countries, in your villages, in your little small neighborhoods is the leadership you so desire. That's actually looking after your very best interests as a people. I submit to you that today it is you who have to make that happen. It is you who has to make that happen. If you do not make that happen, nobody else is going to do it. Certainly not the United States. Certainly not the UK. Certainly not France. Certainly not Germany. Certainly not China or Russia or any of the G5 or G10. So don't you think that these countries are looking after your best interests at heart, first and foremost? They're looking after the very best interests of their own country and their own citizens first. And nothing wrong with that. That is your mandate as representatives of your own respective countries. And that's why we need to make sure that you are actually genuinely looking after the interests of your countries, of your villages, of your organizations. I think I'll end it up from there. I so welcome your comment. I know we're going to get so many comments from this one, but we love comments and we want you guys to actually boldly speak up, learn how to speak up. There's first time for everything. There's nothing wrong in speaking up, speaking the truth, and nothing but the truth. Let's educate one another. Let's help one another. Shoot us some comment on the on our website, or use our email. Send us your comment on this broadcast in particular, and many more broadcasts that we have. Our email is info@afridominion.com. Website is www.afridominion.com. Right there you will find our telephone number. Feel free to reach out to us as well. We are open to talk, discuss, have a fruitful conversation with you guys, a fruitful discussion, a debate, if needed to be. A genuine, frankly speaking conversation with all of you. We are led by a spirit of truth, a spirit of love, and a spirit of trust. Check us out, put us in the scale, fact check everything that we are giving you now. Make sure that both the integrity and the validity of the content is legit. And afterwards, ask yourself, what do I have to do in this instance? What do I have to do? How do I become an added value to some of this information? And those of you who are afraid or don't have the audacity to publicly speak your mind, I encourage you to make an attempt slowly. If you truly believe you are citizens in your respective countries, there are rights of which are afforded to you as citizens. Know your rights. Know your rights. And speak on behalf of your own countries. Look after the very best interests of your own people. And that's why we have this show, and that's why we have these programs. And we are asking you guys, join us. Join us as a movement. Join us here on the show. Join us in various activities to speak on behalf of our own people, on behalf of our communities, on behalf of our nations. Let's say no when no is merited. Let's support when you know the support is required. And let's apologize to nobody when we're saying this is not right. And with that in mind, guys, I am super grateful for the opportunity to have shared this broadcast with you. A huge thanks to HMG Network and affiliates for having broadcasted this program. And thank you so much for technical teams for having also been here with us and continuously taking us to the next notch. And with that in mind, guys, I am grateful to all of you for having taken part in this broadcast. Until we see you again next Thursdays, same themes, different topics. We welcome you. We encourage you to come and be a part of it. And I'm Freeman Singirankabo with Afridominion. I'm wishing all of you a super fantastic day. May God be with you. May you be truthful to your own self, to your own people, and look after the very best interests of your countries, your communities, your families, and yourself. Until next time, we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.